How's it going? And welcome to my review of the 5th edition module, Tomb of Annihilation. This module is jam-packed with content. We have undead, pirates, snake people, dungeons to be delved, jungles to be explored, ruins to be ruined some more. We've got a lot of fun stuff going on here. But before I delve into the specifics, before I delve into what makes this campaign so fantastic, I am going to be delving into spoiler territory. So I highly recommend that if you're a player that wants to play in a awesome adventure, in fact, in my opinion, one of the best adventures written for 5th edition so far, send your DM this way and politely walk away. But if you are a DM and you want some quick tidbits on this adventure, and you probably want to look inside to see if this is worth running, then go ahead and stick around. This video is for you. All right, now that the players are gone, let's go ahead and get started. Over the course of 5 chapters, you are going to be given information on a amazing city, an expansive jungle, a lost and dead city, which is actually not dead. There's a whole bunch of inhabitants inside, a Fane dedicated to a snake peoples, and lastly, we have the end all be all, the Tomb of Annihilation itself. There is a lot of content packed in this thing, and I cannot wait to go ahead and dive right into it. So let's go ahead and start from the very beginning. It's a pretty good place to start here. We have Chapter 1, Port Nyanzaru. What is this campaign all about, really? Well, it's about your players having to save the world. Because in the beginning of the campaign, your players are going to discover that there is a death curse plaguing the world. People that have previously died are slowly dying again. And also, very important, people that have died right now cannot be brought back to life. Meaning that this is not a happy go lucky adventure where your players will die again and again and be brought back to life with a easy little revivify. No, this is not that kind of adventure. This is the kind of adventure where your players are going to have to be smart, not get themselves killed, and do all the legwork because as you might imagine, a whole bunch of newbie adventurers are going to have to be sent here to do this because a lot of the veteran adventurers have already died. So your players make their way to Port Nyanzaru and discover this city. This city is the last bastion of civilization left on the continent of Chult. Chult is the location of where the soulmonger being what is supposedly causing this death curse, is housed. No one knows exactly where this soulmonger is, except that they know it's somewhere within the jungles of Chult. So naturally, your players are going to have to do some really serious grunt work here and go out into the jungles and explore it. The, Port Zaru Chapter 1 is their home base, essentially, for this adventure, and they're going to have to come here to supply and get information and chat with the amazing locals that are around here, which there are a lot of. A lot of named major NPCs and minor NPCs that your players will be interacting with, and they are a blast. We have the high political merchant princes, the 7 most rich people in the city that can either be great helpers of the party or they can be extremely great antagonists or even villains to the players. As well as we've got a lot of minor NPCs that deal with a lot of quests that either take them running around the city or running into the jungles themselves. Part 9 Zaru is covered entirely in Chapter 1, and there is a lot of fun stuff to be had here. But this is just a slight, taste of what this module has to come. In 9 Zaro alone, we have some pretty cool little combats and explorations and role plays. But the real meat and potatoes of this module is Chapter 2, which covers the Jungles of Chult. This map is freaking huge, as we can see here. A lot of hexes to be had here. We zoom in all the way to the max here, and it's already not good enough. You can tell that there's a lot of hexes going on, with Port 90 being at the very top here. And this is going to show to your players that this is going to be a lengthy campaign in regards of in-game time-wise, because your players will only be able to move 10 miles a day in the jungles, in the thick jungles. So as you can tell, moving around here is going to take quite a while just to get to, I don't know, let's say the heart of Ubtao here. It on foot is going to take 20 days at the bare minimum. Really, really crazy stuff. That's one thing that's really appeals to this adventure is a lot of the other adventures, it seems like time is, the adventure gets done in a week. This adventure easily can stretch on to months or even theoretically years. So what do we have for chapter 2? We get awesome tables to detail out how each and every single day rolls out. You can roll these yourself. You can go online and find some pre-rolled ones, or you can roll them as the day happens, or you can just skip it entirely. But there is an expansive table which covers every single location in this jungle, whether it be little undead, no undead, major undead, rivers, beaches, marshes, all this fun stuff. A lot of rollable tables that will flesh out your adventure and make it come to life. But more importantly, in Chapter 2, we have detailed out every named place here on this map. And there is, as you can tell here, a lot of named places. I'm going to go into just like one here just to quickly show off what we've got to work with here. One of my favorites, Firefinger. Firefinger is a reverse dungeon crawl where your players will see this basically slab in the middle of the jungle, and if they decide to climb it, they'll be in for a rough time because the higher they climb, the scarier it gets. It gets to be over 300 feet at the very tippy top here, where they will be fighting a new monster added for this module, Terrafolk, which are essentially pterodactyl people, and they are totally evil and they totally want to push people off their tower. Just, really simple ideas like this make this place shine because we have the simple ideas of, oh, it's just a dungeon crawl, but in reverse as you climb up and you could potentially get pushed off. But at the same time, we have Dung Grung Lung here, and as you can tell, there's a lot to load here. But Dung Grung Lung is a location which has a huge thorny maze, but in the center of this maze is a Grung civilization. And there's a whole quest line that involves the king trying to seduce a god that doesn't even exist. So we have, the very simple to the very, far out there. And there's a lot of in-betweens and a lot of extremes. It works great. Depending on the group that you run, depending on what your players want, and depending on what you want, there is a lot to be had here. You can just have flat out dungeon delving and hack and slash adventure, or you can have a lot of that political intrigue and talking to all these NPCs out in the jungles. A lot of fantastic stuff. So you might be thinking, oh, they just get that map, they can just see the world. No, not at all. This is the map that they are given to by their benefactor, Sindra Sylvain, in Chapter 1. They are given a map which, I'll go ahead and remove the GM layer here. Uh, Nothing. Barely anything. They get, like, what, 4, 5 names here on this map, and that's it. Otherwise, they just get this huge, huge pile of hexes, which is fantastic. What this means for you is either one, you run this module purely as written and have locations where they are, or two, if you don't like the idea of something being somewhere, if you want this random location Nangalore, if you don't want that to be there, then move it somewhere else. It's that easy. If you don't like the Wreck of the Star Goddess being exactly right there, you want it to be closer, then put it right up there. The fact that they allowed you this modularity to this adventure is fantastic and is one of the highlighted points of this module, that it doesn't need to be run purely as written. This is a DM sandbox as well as a player sandbox. The players can decide how they go into the jungles, and you can decide what is waiting for them in there. So, throughout their travels in Chapter 2 and throughout Chapter 1 as well, they'll eventually either meet enough NPCs or just happen to stumble across Omu. Omu is the location of where the Soulmonger is. And that is what Chapter 3 is all about, the Forbidden City of Omu. So let me go ahead and show that off here. Omu is fantastic. It is a lost city that has been lost to time, but is now being inhabited by several factions of NPCs. We've got an army of kobolds who reset traps. We have veggie pygmy tribals that are just scrounging about. We have a army of grungs with a chieftain who has 900 kids, and also very important, we have a army of Yuan Ti, and the Yuan Ti are terrifying. They are strong opponents, and they also love enslaving people. When your players arrive, they'll also be on the heels of another adventuring group, the Red Wizards of Thay, another potential ally or thorn in the side of the party in the search for the Soulmonger. This, again, really highlights what makes this module awesome. As your players arrive into Omu, are they going to just get into a hack and slash adventure where they're cutting down everything that stands in their way? Or are they going to start forming alliances and trying to unify some people above others? Or are they just going to get captured and are you going to have to attempt some prison escape? Entirely up to both you and the players. This is a combined effort here. Throughout Chapter 3, they'll eventually discover that your players need to go to certain shrines in order to unlock puzzle cubes, essentially puzzle pieces, in order to get into the Tomb of the Nine Gods, the veritable Tomb of Annihilation itself. As your players explore and find these cubes, they could theoretically get uh, heisted by the Red Wizards or the Yuan Ti, and have to basically parlay or steal the puzzle cubes in order to get into the Tomb of the Nine Gods. Once again, it allows you to make that call. Do you want, more political intrigue? Do you want your players to be making deals, or do you want your players to just go ahead and get the puzzle cubes themselves and march right in? However you want to do it, it works awesomely. Chapter 4 is going to cover the Fane of the Night Serpent, the basically palace of the Yuan Ti, an entirely optional portion of the campaign, but certainly a fun one for sure. Your players could end up in the Fane of the Night Serpent either by being enslaved or making a direct assault into the Fane, entirely up to them. But let's go ahead and show off that map because that is yet again one of the amazingly detailed and awesome maps that comes with this adventure. So as we can tell here, the Yuan Ti have a pretty awesome base going on here. We got some, pools of blood. We got some Triceratops here. Whole bunch of Yuan Ti, a whole bunch, even a Hydra off to the side here. The Yuan Ti have come here and are essentially trying to raise their god Adendar. And they think they can do that if they basically bury into a volcano that's nearby. Um, they are essentially here just purely as foils to the party, but certainly can be a lot more than just, villains. They can be way more fun antagonists to the adventures. Your players, as they might explore here, either through being enslaved or assaulting from its front door, or maybe even sneaking in disguised as Yuan-Ti purebloods, will be able to find the machinations of this place. The Yuan-Ti operate on a tier system. We have the Yuan-Ti Broodguard at the bottom of the bottom, low to low. Then we have purebloods. Then we have, the other Yuan-Ti as well. And at the very, very top, we have Razin C. Razin C being a person who actually has died and he's been brought back to life, but now he's slowly dying again. So there is this cool little aspect of the Yuan Ti have a leader, and this guy's totally evil, but at the same time he's dying and he's looking weak. And one of his subordinates, Fenthaza, is looking to supplant him, and Fenthaza could potentially use the players to try and kill Razin C to get what she wants, which is ultimate power, and then she'll totally try and betray the party. Typical Yuan Ti stuff. Whether your players go here just to wipe out the Yuan Ti or they come here for the puzzle cubes, they will certainly leave with riches should they succeed because there is a veritable treasure hoard and a mountain of information as well that they could potentially learn. Last up, we go into Chapter 5, the Tomb of the Nine Gods, what this book is named after, the Tomb of Annihilation. The Tomb of Annihilation, the Tomb of the Nine Gods, is essentially a giant homage to the Tomb of Horrors. And while the Tomb of Horrors was small in scale but still beloved by many over the course of the past 40 years, the Tomb of Annihilation sadly puts the Tomb of Horrors to shame with how much content is jam packed in here. We are given six whole floors, six giant maps that detail out this extravagant dungeon. And my oh my, is there a lot of crazy stuff going on here. As you can just tell just by looking at it, there's already a couple crazy things. We got some weird swarms of undead spiders. We got a shadow demon. We got a whole bunch of whites. We got a whole bunch of this to that. I'm not going to go into all the specific details of this place right this second, but there will be a video coming out where I go into extreme detail and basically tell you how you should look at things and hopefully help you run it. But my oh my, is there a lot to cover here. Very starting from the very beginning, we have a fake door. If your players go into this fake door, they'll find themselves in a acid and poison pit, which could potentially kill them. So before they even get into the veritable Tomb of Annihilation, they can get annihilated right there. Terrible stuff. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got for floor 2. Just a quick little heads up, if I can scroll. There we go. For floor two, we have a wine room, and it's not a wine tasting room. It's a room where your players could essentially drown to death on wine. Really, really scary stuff. Like just thoughtful little, like traps like that where your players could potentially drown in wine. Really, really awesome stuff here. Next up, we have, oh yeah, one of my favorites, an invisible beholder. It's a beholder that's invisible. Really, if you thought fighting a beholder was bad, just imagine if it's permanently invisible. It's just casting spells out of midair, and your players have disadvantage to try and attack it. That really sucks and is really awesome. Really creative stuff. What do we got for floor four? A lot of fours there. Oh yeah, we just got, casually four-armed gargoyles. Once again, a lot of fours. We got four-armed gargoyles that require you to pay up anytime you pass by them. And if you don't pay their fine of either a copper, a silver, a gold, or a platinum, they spring to life and beat you up. And by beat you up, they try and kill you. And of course, you can see that nasty little room up there. I will definitely get to that because that is definitely some fun stuff for later. Just like, just the aesthetics of this place is fantastic. The lore behind this place is fantastic. And, once again, just the creative design of this place is fantastic. Floor 5 here, you can tell we have a basically, a places built on cogs. But what's even more awesome is the fact that this place is modular. As you can look here, your players can essentially move this place around. And look at that. All of a sudden, the terrain changes depending on what they do. Like like really creative stuff here. Like how often do you get to play in a dungeon where, a portion of the dungeon gets twisted and turned? Really, really simple idea, but really makes this place come to life. So your players have crawled through this amazing jungle. They've battled their way through a move. They've fought all of the serpents. They've crawled all the way through this terrible dungeon. And what awaits them at the end? What do they get to before they face the Soulmonger, the device that is swallowing all the souls of this mortal plane? They have to fight a dead baby god. A baby dead god? A god baby that's dead? It's hard to describe. Its name is an Atropol, and that thing is scary. And what's even more scary is its daddy. We have a Sararak. A Sararak the Lich, the guy that's on the DMG, not just any Lich, he's the Lich. There is two the Liches, and a Sararak is one of them. The other, of course, being Vecna. So your players, go through this amazing journey to, save the world, and then they have to fight a dead baby god, and they have to fight a Sararak. Really, really awesome stuff here. I cannot describe to you how much awesome, encounters can be had throughout all this book, throughout this journey, and, whether those be adventure, role play, combat, exploration, all of that fun jazz. There is so much of that to be had throughout this module. And taking it back, just like looking at the scale of the world here, the best part about this module isn't it's not written as, oh, your players go here and then they definitely do this, or they go there and then do that. This book is written with the intention in mind that this is the player's decision. Your players decide how they go out into the jungles. Do they hire a canoe and go down the rivers? Do they start walking? Do they take a ship and go all the way down? What friends do they make along the way? What enemies do they make along the way? All these things have a factor in how this story plays out, and I cannot stress enough how amazing that is. That freedom, that sense of, of DM prerogative on how you want to shape this adventure. And because of that, this allows it for great replayability, not just for the DM, but potentially for your players as well, because they might not touch upon a lot of the places of the jungle, or they might, TBK and decide they want to start over. And right as of right of this recording, I'm on my third running of this as a DM, and I can't tell you enough. Like between three different groups, I've had three entirely different adventures, and that's fantastic. Like the fact that I'm not having any burnout over the same module multiple times is fantastic, and I love it. There's really not much more I can say without going into, a super duper long rant, which I will totally get into in my future videos because that is where they're designed for. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that this module is fantastic. So many maps, so many beautifully detailed maps would show off this world. So many just paragraphs and paragraphs of lore, information, how NPCs might interact, and all that fun jazz. So many things to help you forge this adventure into being something different, into not just being another hex crawl, into not just being another humdrum adventure. I would probably rank this easily in the top 3 of 5th edition modules, maybe even the best 5th edition module. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10 on the scale of the fact that this module is close to perfect as perfect can get here. There's a lot of crazy, awesome elements to this game, and you won't even get to all of them, but that's okay because your players will get what they want, and that is truly what matters. Like I said before, I'm going to go ahead and in future videos, I'm going to cover in very, very excruciating detail some tips and tricks on how to run individual chapters and individual locations and describe to you what NPCs may or may not do. And we can totally have discussions later there. But that is going to do it for this video. Cannot recommend this module enough. It is absolutely fantastic. Your prerogative, your choice. Lots of fun to be had here. Um, the end all be all of dungeons, the most detailed out hex crawl of any of the modules. Just so much detail packed into this thing, and I really hope that we start to see more adventures like this. That is going to do it for this review, but go ahead and tell me if you plan on running this adventure or you already have run this adventure and your experiences that you had there. I want to hear it because I've got a lot of stories to tell, and I promise you every DM that's ran this module has a lot of awesome stories to tell. That's going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.